Hello, friends. It is I, and I bring this dream to prove to everybody that I am still alive and that I have not forgotten that I have this channel to run. So, first of all, I just want to vent for a second about my immune system, and that is yesterday I was sneezing without kidding you. Like every minute, it seemed that I was sneezing 15 times. And then today, it happened while I was at work. I was taking a break and I had to lean my head back because apparently the little vein that needed to burst up my nose had to burst and I started bleeding and I was just miserable. And I said, I am ready for my life to just go back to normal. I don't care. I just want one spring and summer where I don't have rashes, I don't have severe allergies, I don't have severe headaches, and basically bring the cold weather back. So, anyways, you guys, today I had this thought, and that is what I am going to use for the stream, and that is to be as clear as possible. I want to start off by sharing a little bit of a story about my upbringing, which I don't know if it's a blessing or if it's a curse or if the blessing came to the wrong person, but that is that when I was growing up, from whatever my earliest memories are until my adolescence, especially my adolescence, I remember that my mother always said that I had permission to do absolutely anything. What does anything mean? Well, I can go out, I can have friends, I can play games, I can pursue anything that it is that I wanted. But I guess given her upbringing that was disciplined, like basically not living a life of excess, I realized that as much permission as she granted me, I barely took any advantage of it. Like, I don't have any memories of being like, hey, mom, do you give me permission to go to so and so's house? Like, when I was a kid, maybe a few times, because I had some classmates that lived really close by that I happened to get along with really well. So, sure, I said to myself, why not go and visit them and hang out with them and even invite them to my place? But even then, as much privilege as I had to have friends over, I never really did any of that. And I think it's weird because I knew a bunch of people who were like, wait, your mother actually lets you do that? If my mom were to find out that I'm trying to go out in any kind of way, she'll shoot me down immediately. And then I find that it is those kids who were overly protected and overly sheltered who ended up doing stupid shit in life. And then I remember my mom saying that if I ever want to do something, all I gotta do is tell her. If I need to be somewhere, she'll drive me. If I need to get somewhere, she'll take me. If I need to buy something, I can ask her and she'll try to help or something, but I do not have to resort to stealing, for example. So I never felt the need to conceal anything from her. I never felt the need to do anything behind her back. So now looking back as an adult, especially my adolescence, I never asked for permission for anything because it's not something that I was interested in. I didn't have friends that I cared to visit. I didn't have places that I cared to go to. And I realized that now that I'm grown, sometimes, like when I started dating my current boyfriend, I remember I used to tell her, hey, Ma, I think my boyfriend's trying to do like something, maybe have dinner or something. Is it okay if I go? And she's like, yeah, you don't need to ask me for anything. I was like 19, 20, 21, so on and so forth. And I still had that sensation, that urge, that gut feeling of wanting to report to her my what I was getting ready to do, my plans, my whereabouts. So even though she has granted me that permission pretty much since day one, I never understood how privileged I was until maybe until I became an adult and I had my own car, and with it came all the freedom in the world for me. But it's just strange that something as basic as that, a lot of people who I know did not have that, and they had to go the extra mile to have permission from their parents to do very simple things. So I feel like the freedom that my mother granted me, I pretty much let it go to waste because I wasn't an outgoing person. I didn't care to be. But now it's like if I could give that permission ticket that my mother gave me to one of my friends so that they can take advantage of it, I'm pretty sure they would have led happier lives. It's like your parents are trusting you. But at the same time, I guess I earned that from my mother because I showed with my behavior that I was trustworthy. Why is it that more parents cannot be like that? Is it because you cannot trust your kids? If you cannot trust your kids, is it your fault that you cannot trust your kids? Because you have not given them the discipline for you to be able to trust them by giving them permission to go anywhere they want, whenever they want, with whomever they want. So I understand why parents would be concerned and you are overprotective, but when you look back, you realize that you inflicted a lot of damage, but you probably do not want to admit it. So at least I can say that my mother doesn't have to worry about any of that because, like I said, she granted me absolute permission to do anything, anytime, but I just never really took advantage of it because it didn't suit my personality. I was not outgoing, and again, I really didn't have friends. So I feel like great. I have the best mother in the world who was willing to help me and facilitate those things for me, but it's just not what suited me. So now it's like all that time went by, and now I can't help but wonder how other people's lives would have been if they would have had someone like her. Like, for the folks who are really social and outgoing, if you had a parent that trusted you so much, what would your life have been like? Because my mom definitely did not have that privilege. For her to have permission from her parents to do absolutely anything, it was rare. And on the occasions that they would grant her the permission, they would come up with some kind of excuse to like inconvenience her from going out. It's like, let's say that she asked for permission to go out on a Thursday night. They somehow come up with plans Wednesday and tell her, you know what? I actually forgot that I had allowed you to go somewhere tomorrow. It turns out that I need you for this and that. It was bullshit. It was just their way of not disappointing her, but at the same time, they did not want to really allow for her to do anything deep down. So when I think about it, it's like, why not be upfront about it? Be like, I am a prick of a parent. I do not trust you. And I think that if I keep you sheltered, you'll be safer than me letting you out at night. Whatever the reasons might have been. But it bothers me because that is a form of manipulation. And of course, there is no way that you can expect for your child to trust you when you are constantly building up the hype only to disappoint them in the end. So, if my mother had to change plans, say that she promised us to go to the water park on the weekend, and then all of a sudden she has to cancel, she used to be upfront about it. She's like, well, it turns out we had an emergency. I had to get the car fixed, so I had to spend the money that I had set aside for recreational purposes. I had to invest it, but it doesn't mean that the trip is canceled indefinitely. Just give me some time so I can rebuild my resources and we will reschedule. That's all it took. That's it. So why is that so difficult for other parents in other households to apply that? Just speak to your child with honesty. And I find that some of my peers who are becoming parents now, and they have like a 4, 5, 6 year old, they lie to their kids so much. It's like I am there when they tell them something, and then they turn around and talk to me, and they're like, if I don't lie to them like that, they won't shut up. And I'm like, don't lie to them, because they will learn to associate you with someone who is not a person of integrity. Like, your word doesn't matter. Like, I wouldn't trust a parent who promises me a lot of things and fulfills none of them. You know? So anyways, I thought I would throw that out there, that I had that privilege. I had the privilege of a mother who gave me absolute freedom, but I did not do anything with it. And the only two times that I did ask her for permission with some stuff, she had to decline it. And the reason behind that was actually pretty weak. And it had to do that she was concerned with the reaction of other parents to my presence there. And I'm like, that makes no sense. It's not like the parents are not going to be present at this function to be able to observe the kind of girl that I am, or the kind of friend that I am, you know? So I think it's just her way of, maybe when that weekend arrived, she didn't want to deal with it, and she just sold me that story. So I don't know. I haven't asked her, and I honestly don't care to, because it's not something that can happen now in my adulthood. But I'm like, Mom, the one time that I ask you for something, you're gonna decline me? You're gonna turn me down like that? But when I think about it, back then, what I did not understand was that the relations in that social group were actually pretty tense. And I think she was just trying to protect me from an experience that could go wrong due to a misunderstanding. So now that I'm older and I'm mature, it's like I can see that now. But at the time it happened, because people were not being transparent with me, it became very easy for me to become resentful of the situation and even not trust my mom for a brief period of time, because I thought, no, there's something that you're not telling me, and I will keep digging until I find out, and maybe the person who's going to give me the answers is going to be the least adequate one, and then it's going to come back to bite you. So just tell me whatever it is that's happening. Of course, we never did, because we never really resumed that conversation. But again, now looking back, the sole fact that I grew up in a household of trust from my authority figure toward me, it just meant a lot to me. And it hit me today, because I was out just getting stuff for Dusty and picking up stuff for me to eat. And I'm like, wow, I am still responsible for myself eating. Like, I am responsible for my cat eating and having litter and whatnot. But it's like, when did all of that happen? When did I transition into this? And when I think about it, I like to associate it with the time I became responsible for my car loan. That's like what truly convinced me that, wow, I have grown and I have responsibilities, and my decisions have consequences that are real and not trivial, like childhood shit. So, anyways, you guys, I thought that I would share that and rumble that, because I think it's interesting, especially looking back, and everything is so different, but yet fascinating. Tony Montana is back. I still don't know who that is. Well, I have seen that, or yeah, looked it up, but I did not see it at all. Sneezing forces you to stay up right now. Dude, yesterday, again, I was sneezing all day long. And tonight, I told myself it's been 4 or 5 days since I streamed, and this is such an important part of my routine that I just don't like to go without uploading something, because the whole reason I stream is to replace my journal. And I have not physically written anything in it for about 6 months now. And it's not even new entries, it's old notes that I had that I'm like, let me expand whatever it is that I was thinking about back then, you know? So this is just very important for me. And I also like to see how everyone here is doing because we all have good discussions, and you guys are an extension of my social life. I feel like some of y'all are more honest than the people I know in person, and that's probably because you don't know me personally, you probably will dare to tell me things that those close to me cannot. So, this is just a very important extra perspective that I can get from you guys that I find it very reliable. So, I just need it to keep me balanced, if you will. I think that children need structure and discipline, but finding a happy medium can be difficult to find. And yeah, I totally understand that. It makes sense, especially when it comes down to personality. Like, the way I manifest is definitely not the way that my brother manifests. So there is just no way that even if you were to attempt to follow the same kind of discipline, the way you exercise it, it's like what's working for me may not work for him. And there's a variety of reasons why that's the case. So, how do you begin to cope with that? Because one of the challenges that my mother had to face was that my brother used to think that she had favoritism over me in the same manner that I used to think that she had favoritism over him. So, when you have personalities that clash, how can you even develop that? It's not like my brother and I hated each other when we were growing up, but we were not best friends either. It's like, you're there for my convenience, I'm there for your convenience. That's kind of the way I remember it being more than anything. But when it comes to structure, I really cannot say anything on that note because I'm not really sure what a family structure is like, especially one to supply to children. But maybe one day I'll have my own family and I'll be able to piece all of this together and maybe face these issues and be like, oh my god, what do I do? Well, this is what I think is best, and apply some of that and be like, okay, this works. Nah, this doesn't. But again, it's one of those things that I cannot really have an opinion on at the moment because I can only express it from the point of view of when I was being brought up. And now that I am an adult and I can think critically, I can speculate why it is that adults around me were making certain decisions for me. But you will never truly know until you are the one that's doing the raising. So, but anyways, I know that people try the best that they can, but that's why I urge everybody to not do such a thing until you have a plan and you're prepared, and above all, if you're not by yourself, because it's no child should have to be raised in an environment where you're dependent on one parent. Because what if something happens to that parent? Not too long ago, about 2, 3 weeks ago, I was telling my mom, Mom, do you realize how lucky we just were that nothing happened to you? You were the absolute sole contributor to our lives. So you could have gotten sick, you could have had an accident, you could have had an injury, but somehow you were able to stay safe, healthy, took care of yourself well enough to where you were never out of commission. But if you had been, we would have been fucked big time. So she paused for a second and she thought about it and she said, yeah, I just could not afford that. So it's not like me saying, hello, diseases. I cannot afford to get sick. I have 2 kids to look over, to watch over, to provide for. Make sure that you don't target me, all right? Okay. It's like, I have my pains, I have my physical issues, And I do not really call out. The last time I called out for anything was like 2014 when I had absolute joint failure. But outside of that, I'm like, I feel the same way. I don't even have kids to look after, but I still have this sense of responsibility of, no, I don't want to go down just because of some silly ass ailment. So unless I just physically cannot make it to work, I still show up, you know? So maybe that is me inheriting her perseverance, or maybe it's just me being stubborn, and in the end, the situation's gonna get worse. But I just cannot stand the thought of me being weak. So maybe it's just a pride thing. But but yeah, I thought I would just share that and mention that. My dad never let me have friends, and I'm the dumbest motherfucker now. Oh, what a shame. You see, when it comes to that, my mom allowed me to be friends with absolutely anybody, but she did teach me to be selective. Selective as in, if you see that this person surrounds themselves with bad influences, that's when you make sure that you acknowledge their existence out of respect. But if you can walk in the opposite direction, the better. Especially if it's someone who, for some reason, it seems like they're always having a good time, they're always having fun, they're always laughing, and everyone around them seems to like them. It doesn't mean that they are taking the right steps in life. So you gotta learn how to gauge that independently. And that was the most difficult part for me because I tried, or I was misguided. Totally my fault. It's not that she did this deliberately, but I misguided myself into associating people who are different from me as people who are wrong, people who are bad influences, and that is not the case at all. It's just that if we're not similar, if we're not compatible, how could you possibly contribute to my life in a positive manner? But I had to do a little bit of growing up, a little bit of reading, ask a few questions to the right people, and they sort of uh, provided me with the keys and the pieces to the puzzle that I needed at comprehending how to be selective about friends a little better. So that's why I guess maybe that fear is what made me opt for not trying to have friends when I was younger, because I just did not care for that. I was just a solitary person. I did not mind spending my weekends at home playing games. So maybe playing games was my escape from that social anxiety of, I'm just not good with people, so I'm going to avoid them because I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to expose myself to situations that are challenging when I like to be a peaceful person. And what better way to have peace than to be by yourself? So, again, it just took a little bit of growing up and talking to people when you're in an adult setting. Like work definitely helped for me, and starting it relatively young. I was like late in my teens when I started working, so I was able to be a better listener. My attention span was serious and better, so I think that's what helped my personality, which is everywhere I go, I like to do a good job. I'm an overachiever. Anything that has my name and signature on it, it's going to be well done to the best of my capacity and knowledge. So maybe I applied that to my social situations as well. It's like I want to present the best version of myself, but I also know that I have a lot to learn because this is not my forte. Socializing is not my forte, so I should definitely get together with the right people. So so yeah, I'm just glad that I can look back and examine all of those stages in my life and be like, I made some good choices. And also, the adults that I had in my life made good choices for me. I remember reading that the children of tiger moms turn out to be good liars. It's because they are afraid of disappointing their parents, and it is also an act of rebellion. Yeah, that makes sense. I honestly just. What can I say? Manipulation, anything that resembles manipulation, deception, I don't want to have a part on it because eventually what's going to happen is that you'll say so many lies that you'll forget what the true story is. And that comes back to bite you no matter what. So, how about if you just do things right from the start and you can ensure consistency and you do yourself a favor, people trust you more. So to me, I think that's more important than trying to create this web of lies that you think you can juggle and handle for a long time. But eventually it'll collapse. So just do yourself a favor and do things right from the start. And JP says hello. Well, hello, JP. Zam says good night, y'all, because I think it's gonna get real again. I can just sense that itchy feeling on my nose. I am barely able to pronounce anything that demands that I use my nasal cavity to produce the sounds like the sounds. I hate it when you're just stuffy like that, and especially words that have an N, they can be difficult, or NG. Does that ever happen to anybody out there? Pretty sure it does. But yeah, I just wanted to report myself and share my most important fault of the day and see what you guys had to say on it. And I have not forgotten that I have pending topics that I never finished from I was reading some articles and stuff. I have everything written down. So just know that I'm around. I ain't going anywhere. I'm still alive. I hope all of y'all are well, and I will return as soon as I can. But no promises. I just want to heal. That's the most important thing for now. And I'm also still having my feet problems where it just hurts really bad. My heel, the sole of my foot. So I just want to be off my feet, resting as much as possible. Alright, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you soon, hopefully